The story we bring you now is a modern classic from the pen of Tom Sterling. It's a tale of reality and unreality mixed together. A waking nightmare compounded of horror, enchantment, and suspense. It's called The Sandman. Perhaps that gives you a hint, because I think we've all heard the story of the Sandman in one form or another. You know, the stories told to us in childhood are not easily forgotten. So here's our play, a tale of childhood terror and its lasting effect upon the mind of a man.
I do not know now what part of my story I have imagined and what part was true. Perhaps you will know. I remember only in the beginning, with the terrible clarity of childhood recollections, of being alone in my room and afraid, of thinking that at the end of the long hall opposite my bedroom, among the terrifying maze of twisted glass tubes and pneumatorts of the laboratory, my grandfather was at work, and with him my archenemy was waiting. What strange power drew me out of my bed toward the terror that lay behind that closed door, I do not know. I remember only crossing the room, opening the door, and staring down that endless corridor toward the image of my fear, Dr. Castelnuovo. Dr. Castelnuovo terrified me. I still remember him as a huge man with cold, piercing eyes, a great dark beard, and a laugh that could freeze me with horror. Dr. Castelnuovo had been coming to see my grandfather every night for months. They were working together on some kind of invention. But as I opened the door to the laboratory that fateful night, I had not the remotest idea what that invention was.
Well, we seem to have a visitor.
What is it, boy? What do you want? I'm very busy.
Oh, my dear friend, don't you see? The boy wishes to bid you good night. Don't you find that touching?
Certainly. Thank you, Harry. Thank you very much. Good night.
You heard your grandfather, boy.
Grandfather, may I stay with you for a while?
What's that? That'll do. Thank you. Good night.
But Grandfather...
That will do, boy. We're working.
But Grandfather, I'm not sleepy. Can I stay up?
Not sleepy. What's this? Have you ever heard of the Sandman, boy? Do you know what the Sandman does to boys who don't sleep? He comes at night and throws a handful of sand in each eye to make them blind, and then... Do you know what he does then? He carries them off to the moon of madness and feeds them alive to his children. And his children have big beaks that can!
For hours that night, I tossed restlessly, unable to sleep. I could not get the thought of Dr. Castelnuovo's Sandman out of my mind, and his laughter rang in my ears. My father had died when I was very young, and I was ashamed to tell my mother that I was afraid. I remember all the toys I had in my room suddenly became terrifying monsters ready to leap upon me as I lay in my bed. Much later, I awakened with a start, a crash of noise from the laboratory. A door slammed. There was a noise in the hallway, and I heard heavy footsteps going down the stairs. I got to the top of the stairs just in time to see the enormous figure of Dr. Castelnuovo going out the front door. The hallway was empty. No one else seemed to have heard. The journey from the head of the stairs to my grandfather's room seemed endless. And I was numb with fear, because any moment I expected Dr. Castelnuovo to return. And yet, the same irresistible power that had drawn me toward the laboratory earlier that night still possessed me. The door was closed. When I first opened it, there did not seem to be anybody in the room. And then I saw him.
Grandfather! Grandfather!
I knew at once he was dead, and I found him clutching a handful of sand. I felt sick after that, deathly sick. It was never proved that my grandfather had been murdered. The doctor said it was a heart attack. Dr. Castelnuovo had left town, but I knew. For years, I dreamed of Castelnuovo. But at last, the memory grew dim. By then, I was a graduate student at the university. I'd met Jean. We were engaged, and it was only 2 months from our marriage when...
Well, now that you've finally come, I don't think you deserve to meet Professor Newcastle. You've been so mean about it.
I'm not interested in meeting some new psychology professor. I came along to be with you. You've been studying so much lately, we never have a chance to talk anymore.
Oh, just a few more months, and I'll have my degree, and you'll have me. Say, that'd make a nice song, wouldn't it? I'll have my degree, and you'll have me.
Well, maybe you can sing it for Professor Newcastle. Come on, let's get this business over with. I've got more important things to talk about.
Oh, don't be difficult, Harry. I told you I had to bring this book back. Oh, you're going to like Professor Newcastle. He's a very interesting man.
Well, I'm sure I'd like him a lot more if he got a move on.
Good afternoon, Jean. I'm glad you could come.
You?
Yes, young man.
But your name's not Newcastle. You're...
Harry, what's the matter?
He seems a little upset about something. Introduce me, Jean. Is this gentleman your fiancé?
Oh, yes. Professor Newcastle, Harry Wilson. Harry, what's wrong?
You don't remember me, Doctor. You don't remember my grandfather, a certain Professor Wilson, who died rather unexpectedly 15 years ago.
Sorry, I'm afraid you're mistaken. The mind can play curious tricks sometimes. I've never known a Professor Wilson in my life.
Oh, it's just a silly mistake. Harry's very excitable. I keep telling him.
Excuse me, Jean. I'm not being very hospitable. We can talk about this inside.
I'm leaving. I'll see you for dinner, Jean.
I don't know what could have happened to him.
Very curious, young man. Very curious.
Jean and I had dinner at a small restaurant. I told her, as I've told you, the story of Castelnuovo and my grandfather's death.
And I went into the room, and there was my grandfather on the floor. Dead.
But, Harry, how can you be so sure that he is the same man?
How can I be sure I'm Harry Wilson? How can I be sure of anything? I tell you, I know the man.
Well, I don't doubt your word, but...
But you think I'm imagining it, is that it?
No, not imagining it, but...
Well, what then?
Still dreaming, perhaps.
That's nonsense. I tell you, Newcastle is Castelnuovo.
Why don't you go and tell Professor Newcastle the whole story? I'm sure he'd be delighted to hear it, and after all, he is a psychologist.
That's just what I'm going to do. I'm going there tonight.
But you can't go there in this state of mind.
Oh, can't I?
No.
Well, I am going, and I'm going to find out one way or another.
Harry! Harry!
Now, listen here.
Good evening. May I help you?
Why, yes. I thought...
My name is Helen Newcastle.
Oh, excuse me. I'm Harry Wilson.
I'm delighted to meet you, Mr. Wilson. Please come in.
Thank you.
I thought I'd never seen a woman so striking in all my life. She was not really attractive. She was perfectly poised. I felt that nothing in the world could disturb her.
I hope I haven't made these too weak. My father tells me I'll never learn.
Thank you very much. I'm awfully sorry. But about the vase, I hope it wasn't valuable.
Ah, yes, the vase has been broken. Please do not worry about it. Have you known my father long?
Well, I don't know. I thought so, but now.
Ah, there you are, Mr. Wilson. I hope my daughter has kept you amused.
Oh, yes, sir. She's done very well.
Good. May I guess why you came to see me?
Well, sir, it's that I thought you were someone I knew long ago.
And now you see you're wrong. Is that correct?
It was so long ago, I may have been mistaken.
As I told you, young man, the mind plays curious tricks. But now that you've found you're mistaken, I hope you will continue to see us.
Oh, yes, I hope you will.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I will.
Won't you sit down?
I should have remembered then Dr. Castelnuovo's story about the Sandman. How first he blinds you and then carries you off to the moon of madness. I began to see Helen regularly. I neglected everything and everyone for her. And she seemed to take it for granted that I should.
I think this will do nicely. Here, let me have the blanket. There we are.
Will we stay here?
Sure, it's as good a place as any, I guess.
You mean for a picnic?
Well, that's what we came for, isn't it?
I do not know about such things. I had never been on a picnic before.
What, never? But how's that possible?
Many things are possible.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. It's just that I thought that everybody's been on picnics. Boy, am I hungry. Let's see what's in the basket. Cheese. And ham. What'll it be? Ham or cheese?
Do you wish me to take a sandwich?
Yes, ham or cheese.
I do not care.
You know, Helen, sometimes I think I'll never understand you.
Why not? I'm perfectly clear.
That's just it. You're too clear. It's hardly human.
I'm sorry. I will try to do better.
No, I don't want you to do better. You're perfect as you are. It's only...
I can see that I am not.
But you are. That's just it. You're so perfect, I hardly feel worthy of you. Even your skin, why, it hasn't a flaw. Not a mark on it. It's almost transparent, like glass.
If that is what you like, I am very happy.
Helen, that's what I love.
Ah, you mean that you love me?
Yes.
Hello, Harry.
Hello, Jean.
May I join you, or are you expecting somebody?
No, of course not. Please sit down.
We ought to have a talk, Harry.
Yeah, I suppose we should. We've avoided it long enough.
Well, you've avoided it. You needn't bother to explain. I think I understand.
I'm sorry.
What worries me is that you might be sick in some way.
Sick? What do you mean, sick?
I mean, upset.
That's
know
enough,
how
Jean.
upset.
Can a man fall in love with another woman without being accused of being insane?
I didn't mean insane. I have the feeling that something is wrong, and I'd like to help.
Then stop minding my business for me. I'll tell you, it's very simple. I've fallen in love with Helen Newcastle.
Who?
Helen Newcastle, Professor Newcastle's daughter.
But Harry...
That's enough, Jean. What's the use of going over these things? Goodbye.
After I left Jean, I called on Professor Newcastle. I had decided to marry Helen right away if she would have me. But first, I wanted to speak to her father. For some reason, I had a strange feeling of panic.
Well, Harry, suppose you tell me what's bothering you.
Well, sir, you may think I'm a little old-fashioned, but...
But?
Well, it's your daughter.
No.
What's that, sir?
Then it's faultless.
What do you mean?
You're about to propose to Helen, aren't you? We must have a drink on this.
Oh, I'm awfully glad you feel that way about it, sir. Then you think she'll have me?
Of course not. I won't let her. Drink up, boy. This is a real celebration.
But you just said that...
I suppose I better start at the beginning. It's only fair after all your valuable assistance. For all his help, your grandfather didn't do more.
My grandfather?
Oh, calm down, boy. I didn't kill your grandfather, if that's what you're thinking.
Then you are Dr. Castelnuovo.
As you probably know, your grandfather and I were working on an invention. A very strange and very useful invention, I may say. I had perfected, or nearly perfected, a robot.
What?
Really just an elaborate clock which could be set to perform certain actions.
Doctor.
What I needed, however, was a case for the machinery. Something flexible and durable. And, of course, decorative. Your grandfather had done some advanced work in plastic forms of glass.
You can't mean...
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I'll come to that in a moment. One night, your grandfather told me that he'd perfected the exact material I needed. He'd been working with a new kind of sand.
Sand?
Yes, sand. Glass is made of sand, of course. At any rate, whether it was the excitement of his discovery or just overwork, he died that night of a heart attack. I left. I did not wish to be involved in his death when I had the means to go ahead with my work.
And your work was?
Just a moment.
You wish to see me, Father?
Yes, my dear. Come over here, will you? My dear, what is the third power of 67?
300,763.
And of 98?
941,192.
If the diameter of a circle is 2 11/16, one obtains the area by multiplying the square of the diameter by 785,398. What is it?
5.6727.
And the circumference?
8.44303.
Just one other thing. Who is this young man?
He is the one who is supposed to ask me to marry him.
That will do, Helen. Go to your room. Oh, Helen.
Yes, Father.
If a young man asks you if you know that you look very beautiful tonight, what do you say?
Do you really think so?
Thank you, my dear. Go to your room. Rather clever, don't you think? I'm really rather sorry to have used you like this, but I needed a test. If a young man would propose to her, I knew she was as nearly perfect as I could make her. And I thought it only fair that the grandson of my old friend should...
Stop it! I've dreamed of you for years. For years. Night after night. And I swore that one day I'd kill you with my hand.
You'll be all right now, darling.
But Casanova, I mustn't let him get away.
You must be quiet. You've had a terrible time.
But you don't understand.
Yes, I do. You were delirious and I heard everything.
I've got to find him.
Look, Harry, there are some things you've got to know. You see, I knew something was wrong last night when I spoke to you. When you told me you were in love with Professor Newcastle's daughter.
No, don't.
The point is, Professor Newcastle doesn't have any daughter. He lives alone. I tried to tell you this yesterday, darling, but you ran off before I had the chance.
But you don't understand. She's not real. She's a robot.
Darling, there is no daughter. There is no robot. You made it all up in your little head.
Yeah, I suppose I made this up, too.
No, that is very real, poor darling.
But you wouldn't mind telling me how I got it?
Oh, not at all. You went over to Professor Newcastle's house last night, broke in and attacked him for no reason whatsoever.
But that's not true.
And in the ensuing struggle, one of the guests hit you over the head with a poker.
Guests?
Yes, he was having a dinner party. Everybody feels you added quite a touch of excitement to what otherwise would have been a very dull evening. And in gratitude, Professor Newcastle himself drove you to the hospital.
Oh, no.
Darling, the thing is that you've been living one of your old nightmares from the moment you thought you recognized Professor Newcastle. I didn't know this, but I've been making some investigations. At the time you say Professor Newcastle was working with your grandfather, he was on the staff of this university, lecturing every day. So it would have been humanly impossible for him to have been Castle Nuovo.
Then that means I'm crazy.
No, it was just a dream. A dream without sleep, if you like, but it's all over now.
How can we be sure?
Well, the psychology department had a huddle on it, and they say that now that you've finally come to grips with your dream image in real life, you'll be all right from now on.
Thank heavens. And you'll still marry me?
If you coax me a little.
How's that, darling?
Not bad at all, Mr. Wilson.
Jean? Did anyone ever tell you you're very beautiful?
Do you really think so?
Oh, no.
Harry, what's wrong?
Nothing, Jean. Jean, promise me something.
What?
Promise me that when we're married, you'll never let anyone tell our children stories about the Sandman.